Suddenly, Jiwon wondered if it really was the coffee. She recalled from her past life that in her bedroom, her husband at the time had told Sumin that he noticed she kept complaining about stomach pain. He had signed her up for insurance before taking her to the hospital. Jiwon also remembered that in her past life, she had died from stomach cancer. At that moment, Jiwon suddenly realized, could the head of the department be like her in her past life? She rushed back, knocking on the door and asking the head of the department what was going on, but no one answered. The police found it strange too, so they broke the door down to get inside. Jiwon stood frozen in shock as she watched what unfolded before her eyes. The head of the department was lying unconscious on the floor. The police immediately called for an ambulance to take her to the hospital. After a preliminary check, the doctors confirmed that, thankfully, she only had a mild concussion. The head of the department told Jiwon that this time she was really lucky. She asked Jiwon how her husband would be dealt with, and Jiwon assured her that he would definitely be arrested soon. A lawyer had already come to work with the police on her behalf. At that moment, the doctor entered to examine the head of the department and informed her that the results of her in-depth tests were ready. Through the tests, they discovered cancer cells in her stomach. Both of them were utterly stunned by the news. The head of the department couldn't believe what the doctor was saying. She asked what it meant, and the doctor reassured her not to worry too much, as it was still in the early stages. The cells were very small, so they could use an endoscopy to remove them. The doctor also advised her to quickly decide on a surgery date, saying that discovering it at this time had a great chance for complete treatment. Thankfully, she had decided to get a health checkup early. The head of the department wiped her tears and thanked Jiwon, thinking she had just had indigestion. It was lucky that Jiwon had urged her to go to the hospital for a checkup. They held each other's hands tightly, and Jiwon encouraged her to hang in there. She told her that God would bless good people and reminded the head of the department to pay more attention to her health because she still had to live happily with her daughter. Thanks to Jiwon's encouragement, the head felt stronger and accepted the treatment. After the patient consultation was over, Jiwon said goodbye to her and headed out. Once outside, she closed the door to the room and sat down, wondering why everything had turned out this way. Jiwon thought back, realizing that if she hadn't smashed the vanity table, the head might not have made it through at all. She had always believed that Sumin would take on the fate of her past life, but, in the end, was that really the case? She felt very sad about how things had unfolded. Could it be because she intervened in the head's life? Perhaps everything started when she advised the head to record all the conversations with B. Kim and their future plans. Maybe that's why the head had to bear the burden of fate in her place. Remembering the scene of the head lying motionless on the ground made Jiwon feel truly guilty. Jiwon muttered to herself that she would definitely take responsibility for her. She was thinking that if she wanted to save the head and help her avoid the fate of being killed by her husband right in front of her lover, she would have to reverse everything from this point on, starting from the moment Minan was in bed with his lover in his own house. At that moment, Sumin would walk in and see the scene, just like Jiwon did in her past life. If Jiwon wanted to shift that fate onto Sumin, she would have to become Minan's lover. This meant that she and Sumin would swap places in this life. Jiwon picked up her phone and called Jia, wanting to ask for her help with something. Minan had quit his job and all his severance pay had been poured into stocks, but the stocks he bought had plummeted. Sumin opened the door and said she had made kimchi soup, urging him to come out and eat. Hearing her, he turned around and asked if that was the only dish. She replied that she didn't know what to do since their living expenses were insufficient. He grumbled that he didn't even have a few coins sitting at home without earning money, and demanded that she order takeout for him. Sumin, annoyed, retorted that he was the one who got fired from the company, so what was the point of acting tough with her? She angrily slammed the door and went outside, telling him to order food for himself. At that moment, his phone buzzed with a new message. He received a message asking if he was doing well lately from an unknown number. He thought this kind of message was typical of girls, and since he was feeling a bit bored, he decided to hear her voice. With that in mind, he texted back asking who was on the other end. The girl asked if this was Mangan's phone. Minan told her she had dialed the wrong number, but he had been using this number for a long time, so there must have been some misunderstanding. The girl thanked him for calling back, as she almost ended up misunderstanding things herself, and then hung up. Minan felt a bit lighter. It had been ages since he heard the voice of a strange girl. After all, meeting a new girl was always exciting. He couldn't just let this golden opportunity slip away, so he immediately started texting to flirt with her. Since he was free and had nothing to do, he thought he might as well seek some new fun outside. The next morning, his mum called Sumin and asked her to come over and make beef bone soup with her. But Sumin replied that it wasn't even 11 yet. Why so early? She then asked why Sumin still wasn't pregnant, since the fortune teller said she definitely would be this month. Why was there still no sign? She even questioned if there was something wrong with her body that was preventing her from getting pregnant. Sumin replied that she had no idea about that. Was it her fault if she couldn't get pregnant? Her mother-in-law yelled at her, asking if that meant the problem lay with her son. She said that if Sumin couldn't have children, she should divorce him immediately. She asked if Sumin dared to raise her voice at her. She couldn't understand how a beggar like her ended up in her son's house, draining him dry. If Minan had ended up with Ji-won, things might have been better. At least Ji-won could earn some money. She reminded her to be ready before lunchtime and hung up. Sumin was furious. Why did she have to compare her to Ji-won? She didn't think she was any less than her in any way. Lately, Minan had been posting nothing but cheesy songs on his blog all day long. Sumin had noticed that he couldn't seem to put his phone down while searching for old photos. On top of that, he couldn't take his eyes off Ji-won during the wedding either. The way he looked at her with such regret was driving Sumin crazy. She wondered if those two were secretly in touch or something. There's no way she's going to let that happen. She's not some fool. Right now, Minan was out for dinner with a friend. His friend suggested that Minan should pay this time since he treated last time. Minan asked if his friend didn't think he was pretty pathetic, getting fired, losing money in stocks, and having a disastrous marriage. His friend laughed heartily and agreed that he really was a sad case. A guy like that actually has a girl reaching out to him? Minan pulled out his phone and said they'd only been in touch, not met up yet. She claimed she was super busy, making it hard to connect. He thought, well, he might as well let it slide. Sumin texted him asking when he'd be back, but he'd read it and didn't bother to reply. Just then the girl texted him too, and Minan suddenly got an idea. He'd invite her over. His friend thought it was a brilliant idea and told Minan to ask her to bring along a pretty friend too, but the girl declined, saying they should meet another time. Meanwhile, the one texting him is none other than Ji-won. She thinks to herself that old habits die hard. Yesterday she had a meeting with Jia, and Ji-won handed her phone back to Ji-won, saying she's been keeping in touch with the guy Ji-won asked her to, and he seems really easy to manipulate. She mentions that she's only helping because Ji-won asked, but wonders if anything will come of it. Ji-won assures her that it'll be fine and promises to explain later. Ji-won tells her to keep her word, but playing the role of a girl with deep feelings is actually quite fun. Ever since Ji-won asked Ji-won to flirt with men through texts, she's been doing just that. From the very first message, he was hooked. Jia thanks Ji-won for her help and holds the phone Ji-won gave her, reading the messages he sent to Ji-won, which makes her feel utterly disgusted by him. After a while, Jin-hik glanced at the phone she was holding and asked if it was the one she had asked him to register for her earlier. She replied that it had been very helpful. She then asked him if he thought she seemed a bit suspicious. He said that if she had decided to do something, there must be a reason behind it. Ji-won questioned whether he had trusted her too much. He replied that this was the blind love he had for her. Ji-won patted his head and said that in moments like this he looked just like a big fluffy puppy. He quickly took the opportunity to ask her if she had any rewards for him since he had helped her register the phone. He insisted that his contribution was significant, so she needed to reward him appropriately. Ji-won then hugged him and kissed him on the cheek. She thanked him for believing in her. saying that thanks to him, she felt loved again and was living happily, unlike what she had experienced in her past life. He asked if they could start over again, but she replied that it was too late for that. He decided to take action first. Close to 3 a.m., Minwon stumbled home. Sumin opened the door, grumbling about how she had called him earlier and now he was just showing up. She told him to take a shower before going to bed since he reeked of alcohol. Sumin suspiciously wondered if he had been out with Jiwon until this hour. Minhwan, completely drunk, ignored her. He went into his room and collapsed on the bed, not even bothering to change his clothes. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a new message. Sumin grabbed it, curious about who could be messaging him at this hour. She figured that no matter what she did, Minan wouldn't notice anything now. She imagined the two of them out drinking together. He was probably still thinking about Jiwon. She opened the message and saw a text from an unknown number wishing Minan a good night. She wondered who this person was, but was sure they would regret it. Sumin took out her phone and noted down the number, then quietly opened the door to go outside. Just then, Minan turned over, startling her. She questioned how he could be so drunk yet still have such sharp hearing. Sumin directly messaged the unknown number, asking the person on the other end what their relationship with her husband was. "How dare you drink until midnight like that?" she texted. The other side texted back, asking who she was. Sumin replied that she didn't know he was already married. The girl explained that she had been single for 3 years. She promised to block his number and not contact him again. After that, she apologized to Sumin but asked why her husband was coming home at midnight. The last message they exchanged was only at 11 p.m., right? Sumin guessed maybe he really was meeting Jiwon. The image of those two being close haunted her, and she absolutely couldn't let that happen. Sumin sat down, reading the messages from the strange girl. She said if Sumin suspected her husband, she would tell her everything she knew, feeling guilty as a fellow woman and very worried about her. She continued to ask if Sumin couldn't sleep. Surely she was heartbroken. Sumin bit her lip, feeling very uncomfortable, but at that moment she had no one to confide in. She had to text someone she didn't know. She told her that she thought her husband was secretly seeing her friend and that she was about to go crazy. The girl advised Sumin to pretend she didn't know, waiting for the right moment to catch them both. Sumin thought her advice made sense. She felt this girl was really on her wavelength. She continued texting her, talking about her husband, who was driving her insane. Jiwon advised her to check with her husband, as her in-laws probably cared a lot about having grandchildren. She also suggested using her in-laws as an excuse, since they were eager for a grandchild, so the couple should go for a checkup together. This way, her in-laws would see that both of them were fine, easing their worries. Jiwon thought to herself, "Sumin, you'll soon find out the truth." She didn't know how Sumin would react at that moment. Would it be like her reaction back then? The next day, Sumin went to the maternity ward of the hospital to get the results, but Minin couldn't come. Sumin called to ask if he wasn't curious about the test results. Minin said he wasn't curious at all. He went for the checkup just to be sure because what else did she want? The one who couldn't get pregnant was her, so why bother him? He even said, "What's so hard about being pregnant anyway? If you want to get pregnant, you should take it to that guy. The result will probably be just a formality." Sumin really had nothing left to say to this person. Does he think she wants to be pregnant? Clearly, it's his child after all. Isn't it because his parents want a grandchild to carry on the family line that they're pressuring her? When she was called into the room to receive the results, Sumin asked the doctor many questions because she couldn't believe what she had just heard. The doctor confirmed that, looking at the test results, her husband's sperm count was far too low to conceive naturally. A man's sperm count should be at least over 20 million, but her husband's was not even 1 million. This means he has a condition known as azoospermia, which is common in men. Sumin was shocked to hear this news. Does it mean Minin can't have children? Sumin immediately thought of her in-laws, who were very eager to have grandchildren to continue the family line. In fact, last time her mother-in-law had even gone to great lengths to help her conceive a son. She still remembered Minan's reaction when she told him she had a miscarriage. He seemed like he was about to lose it. Her mother-in-law had even said that if she couldn't have children, she should just divorce him. He didn't even care anymore. To him, the one who couldn't get pregnant was her. So all the hardships she had to endure were because of that weak Minan. She wondered how he would react when he found out this news. The next day, Sumin went to visit her in-laws as planned. As soon as she walked in, her mother-in-law shouted loudly, asking why she was only showing up now. Sumin explained that she had been busy, to which the woman retorted sarcastically, "What could you possibly be busy with? Out on the streets to earn money or to get me a grandson?" Her mother-in-law then told her to wash her hands quickly and prepare the ingredients for cooking. Sumin thought to herself, all the things I had to endure were unexpectedly all because of Minan. She would definitely get revenge on their whole family. While passing through the living room, she overheard her mother-in-law talking with two of her friends. They praised her for raising her daughter-in-law well, and Sumin realized her mother-in-law was acting out because her friends were there to show off. Sumin walked in, deliberately placing the test results she had just picked up from the hospital on the table for her mother-in-law's friends to see before walking out. Her mother-in-law asked what it was, seeing her son's name on the paper. Sumin turned back and casually said, "It's the sperm test results for Minan. The doctor in the obstetrics department said both spouses needed to get checked, and today we have the results." Sumin washed the vegetables while continuing, "The hospital said you need at least 20 million sperm to conceive, but according to the test results, my husband doesn't even have 1 million. Her mother-in-law immediately jumped up and asked what she meant by that. Sumin explained that her husband had a condition called azoospermia, meaning he had no sperm, and the doctor said that even if they retested, the results would be the same. Her mother-in-law was so shocked that she could barely stand. One of her friends, confused, asked the other if having no sperm was similar to being impotent. At that moment, her mother-in-law still couldn't believe that her only son was impotent. Sumin smiled and told her, "It doesn't matter to me. What's important is that the couple is happy together." Seeing the situation, two of her mother-in-law's friends stood up and excused themselves to leave. With only the two of them left, her mother-in-law angrily shouted at Sumin, asking what kind of nonsense she was pulling. She asked if Sumin had gone crazy for checking her husband's sperm count and bringing out the test results while they had guests. Sumin muttered back that it was her mother-in-law who told her to get the materials checked, and she had no idea that her friends would meddle in other people's business like that. Her mother-in-law could no longer stand and staggered to sit down, still unable to believe that her tall, handsome son had such a condition. Then she blamed everything on Sumin, saying it was all because they chose the wrong daughter-in-law. Sumin was taken aback by what she said. Her mother-in-law pointed at her and said, "People say marrying the wrong wife leads to family turmoil. If you took better care of your husband, how could he have such a condition?" Furious, her mother-in-law took off her apron and threw it on the ground. She said, "Then just kick me out, and let's see if any fool would want a man with no money and no connections like your son." She told Sumin not to call her again or show her face, then stormed out of the house. As she left, Sumin threw everything she was holding onto the ground in frustration. Minan's mother stood there stunned, shaking with anger, but still unable to believe what had just happened. Suddenly, Sumin's mother-in-law felt dizzy and collapsed to the ground. Sumin, seeing her like that, hurriedly ran over and asked if she was okay. After all, she was still her mother-in-law, and seeing her in such a condition, Sumin couldn't bear it. She thought that maybe she should take her to the hospital. Sumin placed her hand on the old woman's nose, thinking she might have already passed away. However, when she noticed the faint breath, she smiled, relieved. "Seems like you're destined to live a long life," she muttered. She told the woman to just rest there until her father returned, as she had something to take care of and needed to leave first. Sumin also mentioned that her father had gone fishing that day, so he might not be back until tomorrow, and that all of this was because of the old woman. Once home, she texted the strange number, saying her mother-in-law had fainted. She wondered how the old woman could have known that this day would come. Meanwhile, Guan was out for a walk with Ji Hook, and he noticed that since getting married, Soo-min had become much more malicious than before. He asked if anyone around him had gotten married, noting that in movies it's often seen that daughters from wealthy families engage in political marriages or blind dates before tying the knot. He shared that he had been on quite a few blind dates, all arranged by his grandfather. Ji-won asked if he didn't like any of the girls, to which he replied that none of them were interested in him. Hearing this, Ji-won found it absurd. "You're so charming after all." She insisted he show her his phone. Ji-won pulled out a photo of the two of them and pointed at him, saying, "Look at those bold eyebrows, very manly, and that high, elegant nose." He replied that it looked quite scary. Ji-won agreed it might seem scary at first, but that was just because they hadn't seen him smile yet. She encouraged him to smile for her. He immediately complied, but she told him it wasn't the right kind of smile. Ji-won quickly demonstrated how to smile brightly, saying, "Like this." Seeing Ji-won like that made his cheeks flush bright red. He looked back at her and smiled. Ji-won took a picture of his smile and shouted, "Isn't it amazing? If you don't like it, I'll delete it and take another one." But he quickly hid the phone away. Ji-won then told him to extend his hand, and he immediately complied. She said, "My boyfriend is not only handsome and gentle but also adorable. How could other girls not see that?" He looked at Ji-won happily, knowing that was all that mattered to him. He planned to save the picture of the two of them together as his phone's wallpaper, so that every time he missed her, he could take it out and admire it. Back at the hospital, Park Min-han received a phone call about his mother and immediately rushed there. He burst into the room, shouting to find out what had happened to her. Seeing her lying in the hospital bed unable to speak, he asked if she was okay. Just then, Soo-min ran in, asking how it had come to this. Although his mother couldn't speak, she trembled at the sight of Soo-min. His father-in-law explained that he had found her unconscious on the floor when he returned from fishing, so he took her to the hospital. He mentioned it was a brain hemorrhage, but wondered why it had happened while she was home alone. Soo-min collapsed in despair, crying out that it was her fault because her husband had insisted she come home to prepare dinner for him. She told everyone she would stay to take care of her mother-in-law. Min-hwan agreed, saying Soo-min would take great care of her, reminding her to focus on getting better. His father-in-law also reminded them that if she got too cold, it wouldn't be good, so they needed to cover her with a blanket and keep the drafts out. He asked Min-hwan what they would do about food. Min-hwan replied that Soo-min would take advantage of the time while his mother rested to prepare some side dishes before returning to the hospital. He even mentioned that she would prepare a meal for his father too, which made his dad very pleased. Hearing this, Soo-min felt a surge of anger but couldn't do anything about it. She thought, "Why should I be the one doing all the work when both of them seem so free?" Maybe it was time for a little showdown between the two of them to wake them up. She told her husband she would text him about what his mother needed and, for now, he should take his father home and take care of him. Min-hwan told her to take good care of his mother, as she had always looked after her like a real daughter, which made Soo-min feel like she was part of the family. Soo-min couldn't grasp the meaning behind his words, as the truth was her own mother felt like a cruel hell to her. After that, Min-han took his father to the car, assuring him that Soo-min would take good care of his mother, so he shouldn't worry. As soon as his father sat in the car, he noticed an envelope. He picked it up and asked what it was, but Min-hwan said it was probably something his wife had forgotten. His father opened it to find the results of a sperm test and asked if Min-hwan had gone for a checkup. Min-hwan explained that Soo-min wanted him to get tested with her, so he did. He hadn't looked at the results yet but assumed everything was normal. Suddenly, his dad said he needed to check again because he found it strange that there was only 1 million sperm. Min-hwan, feeling annoyed, asked what the big deal was with 1 million sperm. His dad exploded in anger, asking if he really didn't know that with this number his son was likely infertile. He threw the test result paper in front of him, insisting that their family line would be doomed to extinction. Once home, Park Min-hwan grabbed his phone to call Soo-min, questioning her sanity for tossing around such ridiculous test results. He asked if she did it on purpose. Soo-min replied that she was busy taking care of his mother and couldn't talk, then hung up. Minhwan jumped online to research the condition of having no sperm, confused about how he had ended up with such a bizarre illness. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message. It was a series of bank notifications about overdue loans and payments due. All his stocks were plummeting, and selling them now wouldn't guarantee any profit. Frustrated, he pulled out all the alcohol in the house and started drinking. He truly didn't know what to do anymore. Everything in his life felt like a dead end. His mind was in a whirlwind, and he suddenly called out Jiwon's name, feeling utterly exhausted. He told himself that if she knew he was in this state, she wouldn't just leave him hanging and would help him. At that moment, Minhwan kept thinking about Jiwon and dialed her number. He felt a rush of relief when she picked up, telling her he was really worn out. Minhwan explained that his mother was seriously ill, work was a mess, and if she were by his side, things might have gone smoother. He mentioned that he would divorce Sumin and be with her, promising that if she agreed to start fresh with him, he would forgive all her past mistakes. Minhwan insisted he knew Jiwon's cold attitude wasn't genuine, and was sure she still loved him. To his surprise, the person on the other end was Jinhook. Minhwan seemed to lose it, demanding to know why Jinhook was answering her phone. Minhook calmly explained that he was currently Jiwon's boyfriend. He stated that he was always there to protect Jiwon, so Minhwan should stop thinking about getting close to her. Jinhook threatened to deal with a pest like him even easier than swatting a fly. He warned him one last time. Park Minhwan yelled into the phone, still demanding Jihook hand the phone to Jiwon. Jihook hung up, thinking that if Park Minhwan dared to touch even a single hair on her head, he would definitely kill him on the spot. Meanwhile, Jiwon was happily playing with Pei in the living room. Jinhook didn't see the need for her to know about the phone call that had just happened. Minhwan was going crazy after talking to Jinhook. He threw his phone into the corner of the room. It was all Sumin's fault. He was definitely going to divorce her as soon as his mother was discharged from the hospital. He suddenly froze when he saw the news. His foot had stepped on a newspaper with an ad that caught his attention. An advertisement about travel insurance, stating that the maximum compensation could reach up to 500 million. A terrifying plan quickly formed in his mind. If Sumin died, he could not only claim that money, but also rid himself of her. At that moment, Sumin was at the hospital, still taking care of her mother-in-law. Guan texted her, asking if she was tired from looking after her mother-in-law all by herself. Sumin replied that she had been struggling all week without any words of encouragement from her husband. She wished the old lady would just die quickly. Sumin checked on her mother-in-law, asking if she was feeling cool enough and if she was cold to let her know. Suddenly she heard a rustling sound behind her. It turned out her husband had come to visit his mother. He asked how she was doing and if she could say anything. Sumin replied that she was still doing her best to care for her. Minhwan sat down and said he noticed how hard she was working. The weather was beautiful, so why not go on a trip together? He would hire someone to take care of her mother for about a week. Sumin was thrilled to hear him say that, and asked if he really intended to take her on a trip. Minhwan said he noticed how hard she was working to care for her mother, so he wanted her to have some time to relax and enjoy a good trip, eating well and sending back some goodies. She happily agreed, and suggested she would find someone to hire to take care of her mother for a week. A patient nearby kindly asked if they were looking for a caregiver, offering to introduce someone she knew. Another person nearby asked if that caregiver had helped Mr. Kim get discharged early. Suddenly, Sumin felt a pang of guilt. She asked the old lady if that was really true. The lady said she took special care of patients, especially those who had suffered strokes, and after her care, their health improved significantly. Minhwan immediately asked her to help get in touch with the caregiver. The old lady pulled out her phone and called to check if anyone had booked the caregiver's schedule for next week. Before Sumin could intervene, the lady said the caregiver had already agreed. Minhwan was overjoyed and said he would inform his father. The old lady insisted that as a child, Minhwan must hire someone to help his parents. This would help his mother recover quickly, and by the time they returned from their trip, she might even be able to walk again. Hearing this, Sumin panicked and told her husband that she could take better care of his mother, so there was no need to hire anyone. But he remained determined to go on the trip with her and took out his phone to ask for the caregiver's number. Sumin was very worried. If that person came to take care of her mother, would she truly help her recover? What if the old lady shared what happened that day? Sumin feared the old lady would recount how she had left her mother-in-law lying there, neglecting her after the stroke. If her father-in-law and husband found out about what had happened, she would be in serious trouble. Sumin was torn. Should she cancel the trip? It had been so long since she had a chance like this, but if the old lady spoke up, everything would come out. She anxiously wondered what to do. Just then, a nurse pulled back the curtain and entered. The nurse announced it was time for the patient's medication and began preparing the syringe. Sumin suddenly got stuck. The nurse said that using the syringe would be a bit dangerous, so she would replace it with another. Sumin asked why, and the nurse explained that if the syringe had too many bubbles, like this one, air could enter the bloodstream, leading to life-threatening situations. Saying this, the nurse set the syringe down and took out another one to replace it. As the nurse finished her task and left, an idea flashed in Sumin's mind. It was just her and her mother-in-law in the room now. Sumin quickly took out the syringe she had secretly grabbed from the nurse earlier. She told her mother-in-law that she would let her sleep deeply. Just then, her mother-in-law woke up. She opened her eyes to see Sumin approaching, and a bad feeling washed over her as she noticed the syringe in her hand. Fear gripped her, and she cried out, but Sumin held her hand tightly, assuring her that she would help her drift off to sleep. She claimed that those who live must live. But her mother-in-law could no longer bear it. Sumin injected the syringe filled with air into the IV line attached to her hand. At that moment, her mother-in-law wanted to scream. But all she could do was watch her daughter-in-law prepare to end her life. Sumin coldly claimed she was just helping her join her ancestors a little earlier. She argued that whether it was early or late, her mother-in-law would die anyway, so why not go a bit sooner? After finishing, Sumin looked at her with a wicked smile. The next morning, a mailman arrived at Minhwan's house to deliver a package. He said there was a letter and left it at the door before walking away. A little while later, Manhwa finally opened the door and found the envelope in his hand. Unsure of what it contained or who sent it, he opened it, only to be filled with rage. Why was Sumin doing all this? Inside the letter were photos of all the messages Sumin had sent to the strange number Ji-won had. Manhwa was furious, not understanding what kind of game Sumin was playing. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message asking if he had received her package. She mentioned that at first she felt sorry for his wife, but then she realized he was the one who truly deserved pity. Manhwa was livid. He couldn't believe that Sumin was teaming up with Ji-won against him like this. Grinding his teeth in anger, he couldn't understand how Sumin wanted his mother to die so soon after everything she'd done for her. Sumin had repaid kindness with malice, and he found her truly disgusting. It should have been her who died. Manhwa crumpled the photos in his hand and decided to punish Sumin. Avenge his mother. Once again he recalled the plan to take out insurance before going on a trip. Surely he would take her on a trip to hell. Manhwa took the first step in his plan by tampering with the brakes of his car. In no time, the job was done. He decided to test if it was working. As he got into the car, he felt that his plan was absolutely flawless. Thinking about how close he was to completing his scheme, Manhwa felt a surge of pride. As he stepped out of the car, he muttered to himself, "Just tomorrow everything will be wrapped up and all the drama will come to an end. I'll take care of Sumin and tackle that damn pile of debt too. Tomorrow I'll play the role of a grieving husband who lost his wife in a tragic accident, earning a sympathy payout of 500 million W in insurance." Manhwa tossed the lighter he was holding into the car and wished it a safe journey. All the preparations were done, and now he just needed to relax and wait for tomorrow.